Hi, my name's Chris, and I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, I'm Kim, and I am married to an addict alcoholic.
Hi, Kim. Okay, so today's episode, there's no letter.
There isn't?
No letter. Some family members, it's just hard to do, and others, real life stuff going on with all the COVID shenanigans. There was a question from somebody, which was, do I think that I'll do stand up again, like after all of this, because of the environment that most stand up places are in?
Yeah. And
I have no idea. I literally can't imagine it right now because everything's so crazy. Like even once what's it called? The stay at home
order.
There's just still not going to be able to congregate like that. And everybody's going to be freaked out. Like once this is all lifted, you can't just go and then everything's normal. It's just, there's still going to be a shit ton of precautions. There's still going to be, so that's maybe 7 months down the line.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about it, but I could see it happening. I have some stuff I'd like to say for sure, but pretty far from my mind. I actually have a question for you before we do the call thing. When I was in treatment, did you pray at all?
No.
You never do any stuff like that?
No, I didn't.
So what things like brought you comfort when I wasn't home?
I don't know. I was just so busy with the kids and with work that I guess I didn't think a whole lot. And like when you would have your aha moments, I guess that's what brought me comfort.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I know like when I was in, I would have. You get distracted, but then you have a half an hour for sure where literally nothing is happening, and then your mind goes, I'm a full-grown adult in sharing a room with two other full-grown adults, and you start to like realize how weird everything is.
Yeah.
So like when you would have, did you have moments like that? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I know what you're trying to say. I guess I had moments where I was home alone. I don't know. No, I don't even remember the last time I actually prayed. But I just... Oh,
it doesn't have to be
but just what brought me comfort.
Yeah. Or like, how would you get out of that headspace?
I don't know. Watched a lot of streaming, TV, stuff like that. Just kept my mind busy cleaning. I cleaned a lot.
Mm.
Yeah.
So it was all...
And then just talk to you on Facebook when I could. It was stuff like that. I don't know. I guess that brought me comfort. Working. Yeah. And the kids, they keep you busy. So that kind of stuff. I wish I had a better answer. Like,
no,
I did
fine.
this and it was enlightening. No, I just...
If something worked, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's all.
I think it was just getting back to my normal routine is what brought me comfort. Because, just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I think it was harder when you were in the hospital and I'd have those moments alone. That's when I would cry and have these breakdowns and be sad. But it was because I didn't... Oh,
because treatment was the healing process out of the hospital. So it's a little different feeling than when I gotcha.
Yeah, because when you were in the hospital, there was unknown of when you were going to get to treatment, if you were going to go to treatment, when you were going to get out of the hospital, how you were doing in the hospital. Whereas when you got to treatment, then I guess I had moments where I worried that you weren't going to get anything out of it because of the religion thing.
Sure.
And so then I'd have those moments where I'd be like, well, we'll kind of wait and see. And it was counting down days when we get to visit you too. That kind of got me through too. Okay. All right. It's almost Wednesday. It's almost Sunday. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Like the hospital aspect of it. So like you worked at a youth and adolescence facility.
Mm-hmm.
So you were familiar with kind of the way that like the people that I was dealing with when I was in there.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked a whole lot about kind of what that environment is really like. It's like, man, it's, if you've ever been, in the ER, imagine that, like, or like, if you've ever, or like urgent care, like that little nurse pit, you know what I mean? Like when you're in the back there.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this for people listening, that like, that's where you live until you leave, is something that looks just like that. And how people are constantly checking on you. It's that same vibe where everything feels like very strange and small. And the longer you're in there, the more you can kind of feel like, the more you think is wrong with you, I would say. Because like now at the hospital, you don't go on that floor like at all, do you?
What do you mean, the mental health unit?
Yeah.
I mean, I bring I don't work down there, but if I, admit a patient, I can bring them down.
But not very often?
No.
The first time I went in there, what was it like? Because I remember when you would ask me if they had asked me something yet.
Okay.
Like, did you have thoughts with either time, like of wishing that you could have my case and like be making sure that people were asking
no
XYZ or anything like that? No.
Because I mean, the first time you went in there, I didn't work there, at the hospital. Second time around, I know the unit and know the people that work on the unit, and I trust their judgment. Like the provider that was working when you were there, I trust him. I trust the people that were working with you, kind of a thing. So I felt comfortable that they'd be doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting. Like if you work at a restaurant and your friends come in and you're their waiter, like,
yeah,
you kind of like, it feels like they do something a little different or a little extra for you because they know you. You know what I mean? So I wondered.
I don't know if that's the case. No.
I just didn't know. I didn't know.
Oh, no. I just felt, I guess I didn't have any worries because I know the people that work down there, and I knew that they would do a good job with you. Not they would favor you at all. No. Yeah. No, but I think that it's a good treatment team down there. So yeah.
It's very eye-opening. And on our other podcast, or I guess this is all the same thing, but in our usual episodes, we've talked about it before, but like this time when I went in, there was a big eye-opening. I had no idea how many floating nurses there were in the hospital in general, and definitely not, I had no idea how many of them made up the team that are on that mental health unit. Can you explain what a floating nurse is?
Oh, there's just nurses in the hospital that are float nurses that they float to specific units. They kind of pick what units they want to float around to. And they kind of fill in. So if there's not, if there's not enough people working for whatever shift or whatever, then they kind of fill in different areas in the hospital. Yeah.
Yeah. So you could have somebody, and what is it? There's a 12 job minimum. So like you have a checklist of areas that you'd like to work in. You mark those off, and you have to have, I want to say it was like 12, at least 12 picked. And then you can have up to 20 where they will send you. So when you get your schedule, is it every week?
I have no idea. Like I have a completely different role.
Oh, okay.
So mine's so, yeah.
But yeah, so they each week could be doing 3 or 4 different jobs and units, and within that shift, they might go to another unit. or another area of the hospital while they're working.
Interesting.
So like when it comes to the mental health side of things, those people are doing their best, but they're also, there's a good possibility that they're not there that often.
Yeah. And things change a lot throughout, well, especially now, but all the time throughout the hospital. So
That's
yeah.
super interesting. And the only reason I bring that up is like in treatment, if you have any other, or in recovery, I should say, if you have any other underlying health issues, it's tough to focus on your recovery when you're also dealing with other like new medications, and every nurse had a different opinion on about when you should take those medications. And it's seriously,
That's crazy to me. But
so many different nurses, and all of them thought that the last nurse or whoever you talked to, it was always like, I've never heard of that. So it just goes to show, like, so in recovery, trying to figure out how to, like, knowing that there were so many floating nurses when I got to the treatment facility made things easier for like when I would have issues with medications and other like health related stuff. I would just be like, you know what? It's everywhere. There's just a need for nurses, those types of, there's a need for nurses in mental health. There's a need for them in treatment facilities. Like, so like trying to have what's the word I'm looking for? Empathy towards the fact that it's not that they want to make your life difficult, and you don't want to make their life difficult, but they think that everything that they're doing for you is life or death. Potentially life or death, potentially their job, so they're doing things in a specific way. So try not to take anything personal when it comes to staff, especially early on in your recovery. Because there were 2 people that left because of like health stuff.
Really?
That they felt they weren't having their needs met.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like really, really real. And if you have like a major underlying issue, then do what you got to do, but don't let it get in the way of recovery. Because if you leave before you're supposed to, because you get frustrated with something, you're going to end up back there or back in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to say that. Also, thank you for working during these absolutely crazy, crazy times.
I love my job. I do love my job.
I'm
also
just
happy.
love your job.
I'm happy I have a job. The end.
I don't know how long we're going to do the live thing for.
I know. If anyone comments, we can't even read it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot to. Sorry.
That's really crappy.
We are doing live stuff, and I have forgotten to look at the
feed, the
comments here. I'm going to do that right now, and nothing. So we're doing okay so far.
Did a lot of people in your treatment, were they in the hospital before they got to treatment?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
For alcohol withdrawals, stuff like that?
For withdrawals, seizures, dehydration was another common one. A lot of people would have, like, the only way I can think of describing it is like have manic episodes, where, they just like were, well, like how I was being like extra agitated and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were people that were like that, but like 10 times as bad. And, so people would call the police and have them hospitalized, because they were acting erratic or whatever. So a lot of people that were in the hospital first.
And then went to treatment. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Very interesting.
I wouldn't think that, but.
Well, while I call this individual, I can I can still be able to check comments and stuff. So we'll do that. Did I already say there's no letter this week?
You did.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if I'm going to write a letter because I feel like me speaking on the podcast is kind of my letter.
The thing that I think of is there one thing that we've gone over it, and so you kind of say that in your head where it's resolved but not resolved? Like there's things that it's tough to dissect like all of the things that have happened.
Yeah.
And to remember that you even felt a certain way about a situation, and then, however long down the road to be like, oh, I never really talked about this thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
If there's anything like that, I would say that's a good thing to do.
Okay.
So.
Do I have to put my headphones on?
You got to put your headphones on now. We got to look cool. So we have our first call-in this week, and
I don't know if it's my own hair touching the mic, but
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Usually is.
Yeah, no.
So
I did
yeah.
pull one of your beard hairs out last week, so.
I mean, it was a dog hair.
It was a beard hair.
I mean, you say that, but really,
Sorry.
it's dog hair.
It's a beard hair.
Okay. I almost FaceTimed. Can you hear it?
Mm-hmm.
Technology, man.
It's so cool.
And then he can hear us through the microphone.
That's cool. Maybe. Is he going to answer?
I should.
Probably am sleeping.
No.
Your call has been forwarded.
Oh, weird.
This is a bust.
They knew I was going to call. Maybe he's pooping.
Yeah.
Well, we'll wait on that.
Okay.
I think, yeah, once all of the COVID stuff is done, I haven't really thought about this has been so helpful for me.
Yeah.
And
do you think you'll go to meetings?
Yeah, I do think that I'm going to have to do it. It's easy to avoid now.
Yeah.
And like I said,
because the only way to do it is online, and they have certain times and
yeah, I can make excuses forever, but oh, there we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing, man?
I'm excited to talk to you.
Okay.
So I think how have you seen addiction like either affect you personally, or like have you battled with this stuff? What's your story, good sir?
Oh, that is a good question. I could pick a lot of different areas to start.
Talk about like early life or recently, or
I would say so first off, have you personally had to like overcome any type of addictions?
What's that?
I would say first, have you personally had to deal with any type of addiction?
Yes, I have. I've struggled with alcohol numerous times in my life. I've also struggled with a gambling addiction several different times. And so like the alcohol started when I was probably, 16 in high school, and I was just extremely shy. I used to eat lunch in the library by myself because I had so much shyness and fear of talking to people or somebody calling me out on whatever. I don't even know what I was scared of. So I had some friends that were, weren't a part of the church, which is a huge part of the community that I grew up in. And so I would hang out with them, and they would think it would be funny, to this Mormon boy, that hadn't done anything. They would, have beer at their dad's house, and they'd be like, "Here, take a sip of this beer," And I did a couple times, and then when I was 16, I think it was the first time that I, got drunk. And I remember we went to a basketball game, a high school basketball game, and it was just like, I felt like I had come out of my shell, and I was talking to people I'd never talked to before, and it was like this thing that I was in, but I really wasn't. I was just, drinking, and it had turned into this whole thing. And then it turned into, people that were in my school would go to parties, and they would, be hanging out, and we'd be drinking and having a good time. Like, popular people who are more popular and involved in different sports and activities and stuff. And then at school, they wouldn't, they'd be like, "Yeah, I don't know who you are, dude. I wasn't at that party. I've never associated with you." So it was like this whole psychological thing, like, what, we hung out, or we did this, had this experience, at a party, and then you're acting like that never happened.
Wow.
Like, what's that all about? And I wasn't like trying to hide it. I mean, from my parents, obviously, but from other people, I didn't really care. I didn't, and then my sister would be like, "I have a reputation, and, you're getting a reputation for someone who parties. I don't care if I have a reputation." My reputation before was the shy kid that sat in the library and read books during lunch, and I had a couple friends, so I don't really care. And it was just like psychologically, and then the first time that I knew that it was an issue, we were up in the foothills, and we were all, just drinking and hanging out and stuff, and there was a pool right by our house. Just through this huge field, there's a local swimming pool, and we decided that we were gonna, break into it over, in the middle of the night. And so we went to the pool, and we were able to climb up over the, those, how the municipal pools have the cinder block ledge.
Oh, yeah.
You can kind of climb up, and then it's just a flat roof. So it was pretty easy. We just jumped over and went swimming, and there was like 10 or 15 of us. And, we swam and, drank some more. And at the end of the night, we're done swimming, so we're climbing back over. And I'm the last one over, and my foot slips off the ledge, and I fall probably, I don't know, 9 or 10 feet onto the concrete. And I just hear something snap, and I just get up, because you're drunk, you don't really know how serious you're injured.
Yeah.
So I start walking, and I'm limping, and get to my friend's car, and then I'm starting to like kind of pass out a little bit. And we go to this gas station, and I get out, I'm sitting on the curb out in front of the gas station. I take my shoe off, and the clerk comes out, and he's like, "Dude, I can see the bone protruding out of your foot.
Jesus.
You need to go to the hospital." So I was like, "Whoa, okay." And they took me to the hospital. So I'd broken my foot, and it was, the middle of the night, and I remember one of the nurses asking if I'd had anything to drink. I was underage, so one of my friends was shaking his head, and the other one's nodding his head, And they didn't care. They were just trying to treat me,
Right.
It wasn't like they were going to call the cops and come pick me up from the hospital. So then, and I was living at my parents' house at the time still. And so then I think I hadn't been home for like a week and a half. I'd just been on a binge or, partying, for sleeping on friend's couch, staying at a friend's house for like a week and a half. And then I was going to leave to this other state to go to this newspaper gig. I go home, to my parents' house that morning, and my dad is like furious with me. They knew I'd been out partying. They were not happy with me. So I'm on, I have crutches, and he's like, I'm going to take you to go get a drug test. And I'm like, well, it's a waste of your time. I'll tell you it's not going to be clean. Like, I smoke weed and stuff, so what do you need to go pay someone to give me a drug test for? And he was just pissed, the whole time. He was just telling me how, messing up my life and all this crap. And I'd broken my foot. I didn't have health insurance, So from that point, fast forward to, to the time I was 22, it's all just a blur. I worked and I partied and I worked and partied, and that was pretty much my life. And
can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah.
So like while you're doing this stuff, you said you were 21, 22?
Yeah.
Or up until, okay.
From I was 19 till 22, yeah.
Okay. So did you still like talk to your brother and sister quite a bit?
No, my sister wasn't in the picture at all at that point.
Okay. What about your brother?
I talked to my younger brother, and he watched all this go down, And my older brother was doing his own thing, and doing various things. So we weren't all close at that point. My sister had, quit talking to my parents, from the time we were 18, because they had a whole falling out on both sides. So I think she might have been living in another state at that time.
So like while all of this is going on, everybody's kind of doing their own thing.
Right.
Okay.
My younger brother, was in high school, and I feel like I was not, I was a terrible example.
Did you ever take him out partying like while he was in high school?
A few times, yeah. I think I, provided it for him for sure, because my older brother was, quite a bit older, and he was like, no, I'm not gonna, like he would have punched me in the face if I would have asked him for that,
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm gonna be the cool older brother. I'm gonna, little as I know, that's the worst time to introduce somebody, and I was very ill equipped to be like, all right, I'm gonna buy you this beer, but you can't drive, you can't do this. There's all these different risks involved. I was just like, just don't tell anyone it was me.
Right. Well, and you kind of think when you do that stuff, like he's going to learn the way that I learned. Like you got to, everybody learns in their own way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I remember that kind of feeling like with my younger brothers as well. So I get that. Yeah. You don't want anybody to know that you're doing it, but they're going to do it anyways, whether it's from you or somebody else. Like, I gotcha.
But, what we don't realize is that, when you're that young, your brain is not fully developed into an adult brain. Like there's still a lot of things happening, and that sets the foundation for addiction.
For sure.
Because like for me, it was, it was to try to be social and be outgoing and suppress the feelings of anxiety, and I wasn't good enough at this, or I wasn't, I was a loser or a loner. But with alcohol, I was like, this party boy, like it was fun, and I was, everyone liked being around me when I was drinking because I would do crazy stuff, and you have this feeling of, everyone's kind of drunk, so you don't really there's no boundaries and no social statuses really.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, and your brain logs that any positive experience, your brain logs it and thinks that it needs that positive experience to survive. So however it transpires or like manifests is the word I'm looking for. However it manifests itself, which is to say, I'm more sociable, which makes me feel more comfortable, which makes me feel a part of something. There's a tribal factor to it. Like, there's all of these things that we don't know that are like lying within us that it'll latch on to shit just because it's our whole. I mean, I could go on and on about that shit, like how unnatural we are as creatures on this earth, so that our brain has no idea what we're doing to it half of the time.
What we're basically is building a map experiences and sensations, and and then when we become adults, all we have is this map that we've unconsciously developed in our brain,
right?
And we're following that to a T. Like, this is how we're going to get to here. We can go in the other direction because we already know this direction.
For sure.
So,
all right, now back to were you were dating this girl at the time? Did you say?
Yes, and the night this transpired, I had another friend that lived in that same city, and I was friends with her cousin too, and fight with being and this New Year's Eve, and like.
Oh, sorry, dude, you're breaking up.
How about now?
Now you're good.
Okay, sorry, I'm in Athol, Idaho.
Oh, is that where they make moonshine?
Yep, it is.
I thought so.
Discovery Channel films here every week. So, anyway, I ended up that night getting in a fight with her, an argument, if you will, and it was New Year's Eve, and I'm like, I'm gonna go party. I don't want to deal with this. I'm gonna go party. So I went and met up with these people, and we went to their house, and they had a bunch of people over for this New Year's Eve party. Some dude straight up from some small town and nobody knew any of them. There were like four of them, and ended up being this big fight, and the cops got called, and it was just this whole big deal. And so that after that all transpired, I woke up probably 5 or 6 in the morning and went back to her house, and we talked about it and made up and stuff, and
So you're saying that you were like not going to do this anymore, like you were trying to figure out whether you were going to continue to drink as much as you were drinking?
No.
Or am I misunderstanding?
I'm sorry. I was thinking I was going to go a different direction than with this person, dating this person. And I did over the phone because we lived in separate areas. And then I realized, or then 2 weeks later, I got a phone call and that we were expecting a child. And I was going to stop drinking. I was going to stop partying, and I was just going to be, the best dad I could. And it didn't happen that way.
So like, did you try quitting cold turkey, or were you just like, I'm going to dial it back?
I quit for, a few months, and then, she's expecting, we realized it wasn't going to work out. I broke up, got in a relationship with somebody who was 7 years older than me, and we moved in together. And then I would get to this point where I would drink, and all my insecurities would come out. I would accuse people of stuff that, they weren't doing. I would just make up this scenario in my head that you're cheating on me. I know you're talking to this person. I can't believe you're doing that. And it was, insecurity that I had developed in my early teen years that never got dealt with. It never, it was just kind of in the back of my mind. And then when I would drink alcohol, it would just come out like a reckoning, of insecurity that I could not suppress. I could not filter. And all I would, I would make accusations and just live in this world of everyone's out to get me and you are, going behind my back and doing all this stuff. So.
And this is all before your first child was born, you're saying?
Right. So.
Did you move in with this lady?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, sorry, I missed that part. So what, how would you get into arguments? How would you get away? Or would you guys just scream at each other until it ended, or?
Well, we wouldn't really scream. It was more, I would be getting at because I was making these unfounded accusations that I would just make up in my mind. And then one person would go sleep somewhere else. And then the next day, I would apologize. And it was just a vicious cycle that happened over and over.
Okay, I see.
Until you create that situation. So, one night she didn't come home, and I found out she was at a bar. I went to the bar, and she was with some guy kissing on him that she'd met at work. He was from out of town, and he came into the restaurant or whatever. So she met him, and so she had made up in my mind. It had manifested because I pushed her away.
Sure.
And then, and I moved out, and she apologized, and then we got back together, and I came back, and then she was an ex addict with hardcore drugs, and I found out that she was using again. I was just, at that point, couldn't even believe that I was hanging out with someone I knew nothing about,
Oh, I see.
And I could have pushed her back into that because of all my insecurities and how much of a mess I was. And I wasn't.
Did you think about that in that moment? Like, I know looking back on it now, you can kind of dissect that stuff, but were you thinking that at all once you found out that she was using that you had pushed her to that point?
No.
So it was all just external, like, I'm living with a stranger type of feeling.
Right.
Okay.
And that thought never crossed my mind that I was,
and I'm not saying that that's what I think happened. I'm just trying to get into your headspace as to where, like, when you say hard drugs in your career of using, I say using, like, in terms of anything. So, like, drinking or whatever. Did you jump into hardcore drugs at all later on in life?
I wouldn't say later on in life. I would say in that time period, I did, but I didn't fully immerse myself. It was more experimentation.
Did you ever have like a rock bottom moment, or like do you have do you drink now and it's not a problem, or?
I made it a habit being on the rock bottom. I mean, I would climb out and then I would just dive head first right down to the bottom again. So I had a rock bottom when I was, 19. I think it was even after I broke my foot, and it healed up. It was months later, and I was drinking with some friends, and they were working for a construction company in their house, probably in their 20s, and they had a shop, and so we all went there, and I thought that I was quite the party animal, that I could just chug hard liquor and and not throw up and things like that. And I remember one of their coworkers was, daring me to chug some Yukon Jack. And I'm like, yeah. And we'd already been drinking, numerous beers and taking shots. And so the next thing I know, I wake up in this room. And as I start to wake up, I feel just absolute, like I got hit by a train. Not just like hungover, but like I could barely like get up and walk. Like it felt like I'd broken my hip.
Oh, okay.
And I felt my face felt like a balloon. And I had, walked and found a bathroom, and I still didn't know where I was. And I look in the mirror, and the whole, I don't know if it was the left side or the right side, it was just covered in road rash. And my face was just swollen. I was like unrecognizable. And then I realized where I was. I was at, one of my best friend's girlfriend's parents' house. And they had woken up, and they're like, we're so glad you're okay, and just talking to me. And then they had to fill me in on what happened, because I had no idea how it ended up like that. And the road rash extended all the way down this one side of my body, all the way down to like past my thigh. Like I was
Jesus.
in pretty bad shape. And apparently I had, after we'd been, chugging this liquor, we went outside, and I just like took off running down the street. Like just took off running down the street. And one of my buddies came and like, he was like trying to stop me because he didn't know where I was going, and like tackled me in the road, like full on just tackled me in the road.
Jesus.
And that ignited a fury in me that I started punching him, and then, their coworkers came out and started trying to fight them. And I was just in such a rage.
So was the road rash from that guy tackling you?
No, it was from that, but it was from, they were all trying to calm me down, but I was trying to fight him and throwing punches. So they basically had to beat the shit out of me beyond recognition to get me to stop.
Oh, I see. Okay. So on top of that guy tackling you, so you'd taken a lot of hits, and
yeah.
I see. Okay.
I still to this day do not remember any of this.
So, but you drank after that, didn't you?
That night, or in general? No. They called my buddy up, and they're like, "You gotta come pick him up. He's in bad shape. This is what happened." So they loaded me up in the back of this truck, drove me over to her sister's house, who was a nurse, and then she was like, "You got to take him to the hospital. Like he's has alcohol poisoning, but he also, have head injuries and things like that." There was a decision made not to take me to the hospital. Like I very well could have died that night. Like
you had to have had a concussion.
Oh yeah. So. And from that point, I'm like, I'm never drinking alcohol again. Like, this is it, And I remember going in, and we had to do like an alcohol training class. And I remember just seeing the bottles of liquor just gave me a headache. I wanted to puke. Like everything came rushing back. I didn't even want to look at it, Seeing commercials on TV with people drinking, I was like, no, this is it. And then that lasted for like 4 months, I think, 3 or 4 months that I quit. And then I started drinking again, just, socially and stuff like that.
So where are you at now? Like, do you feel like you have a handle on drinking, or are you just done with it?
So 6 years ago, I moved up to be closer to my fiance and my daughter, and they had moved up here. That was the end of where I would just go to a bar with buddies and just get hammered and, kind of party. And that was the end of that. So there's been different phases in my problem with drinking, where completely irresponsible to completely irresponsible to, I'm always aware that I can go back and flip the switch. Like, how people say that they have an alter ego that comes out when they drink?
Yeah.
And then I feel like I'm always conscious of that fact.
Well, that's what people talk about alcohol having an allergy to it having an allergy is just having an adverse reaction to something introduced to your system. So it's much simpler than some people think as to why they talk differently or do these different things. And why there's a personality change, like that Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. You're just having what could be classified as an allergic reaction, and the way that it manifests is agitation, irritability, and all of those things, which make you look like an asshole when, people say they're an angry drunk or this or that. Your body just processes it that way.
Right.
So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
But yeah, I mean, I and in my family, I mean, I have family members that I've, did different things that were small in comparison,
Sure.
And the only reason is because I was lucky.
Something that they say in treatment, like when it comes to those stories, like when somebody would say, like the things that I went through weren't quite as much as what you went through, but the way that we word it is, I hadn't had that happen to me yet.
Right.
So it was everything's on the precipice of it can happen if you continue down that road of
exactly.
Using.
I've never been in treatment. I've gone to AA meetings with friends that were, required to go, and I was there to help support them and things like that.
So it doesn't seem like you would consider yourself an alcoholic then?
No, I would consider myself an alcoholic because I've shown all the tendencies of it. I wouldn't consider. So, I mean, I don't drink regularly. Like, it's sometimes maybe, once every 3 weeks, sometimes once a month, but in the sense of the word, yeah, I would say I'm a recovering alcoholic. No, I don't completely, not drink. But does that make sense?
Yeah. It makes me think of, there's a lot from what I've gathered, because an underlying thing when I was in treatment was that, I think the winning rate for people in recovery is something like 2%.
Yeah.
Like when they get out of treatment, like this shit destroys a lot of people. So there people that were in that facility, it was their second time, fourth time. I met a guy who it was his 9th time in treatment, had died twice. And so there was all of these things that the older folks that were there would always say, and things went pretty good for a while. I had it so that I was only drinking maybe once or twice a month. There was one guy who had kicked it for years, and then he retired, and just out of sheer boredom, there's nothing else to do but, drive his 4-wheeler around and drink and set up deer stands and just without even thinking about it, ended up letting it get completely out of control again. So it's like, it's this thing of like, if you think that you are, what would keep you from just stopping, period?
Nothing really. I mean, I don't really enjoy drinking anymore. Like, I don't enjoy, I like sipping on a bourbon or a whiskey because I like the taste, not because I like the feeling of getting drunk and then the next day feeling, terrible because you had, 3 beers and a whiskey shot. Like, I don't enjoy drinking in that sense of the word, because it makes you feel, I like to, have a beer. Like, I could buy a 6-pack, and then 2 weeks later, I'll still have like 3 beers left.
I would think like, just in terms of, I think if you know yourself, right, and you know that there are these random, if the conditions are just right, that you can end up doing something that you regret. Because like, knowing yourself is one thing, but once you introduce those substances, you can always kind of like hope that you would know, like, oh man, I can't believe I let myself drink this much again. I need to make sure that I don't the next time. You might not have that opportunity though. You might be at a neighbor's and there's just, everything feels perfect and nobody's angry, nobody's anything. But you end up drinking to a point that flips that switch again, to where you associate it with such a happy thing that you get what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not trying to preach at you or anything.
No, I know exactly. I get 100% what you're saying. And so to counter that, I don't put myself in those situations at all, where the conditions could be right, that if I go over, a certain threshold, that I can make a decision that could, affect me and my family. I don't put myself in those situations at all. And so, that's my, number one thing is, I've put myself in those situations so many times when I was younger, and, throughout my adult life, that I don't, I don't do that. Like,
I get what you're saying. Like, you're trying to, where you keep yourself away from the things that would allow you to relax and let your guard down.
Right.
I gotcha. Okay. Well, dude, I love hearing your stories from the last time that we talked to you. I don't know if that was for sure a year ago, but I still think about that sometimes, like your firefighting stories. And I thank you so much for talking to us again this time. And I spoke with the person that you told me to talk to yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And they opened up a shit ton, and there's a lot of stuff that, like, I would love to talk to them about too. So hopefully we can get them on here at some point to kind of hash that shit out. But again, thank you for calling in, dude, and I love you.
Yeah, and I appreciate your insight, and I take all that to heart, and I love you, man, and I know it's hard to keep in contact all the time. We all have lives and stuff, but I look forward to keeping in constant contact, and I'll check in on you and text you, and
yeah, I'll text you with what because we had kind of set up a plan. We're gonna create like a group text to keep check on each other. So
okay.
I'll talk to them about that too, getting you in on that, so we
Yeah,
can
I
do
think
that
that's
for each
great.
other.
All
All
right.
right, we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right. Take care, man.
All right, peace.
All right. Bye.
We can take the headphones off now.
Okay. My ear starts to hurt.
Yeah, I ended the live feed because I was like, oh shit, no one can hear the phone call.
Oh. Yeah.
That's why. So I apologized people for that, but that's why I stopped that. Not exactly where I thought that conversation was gonna go,
Yeah.
but there's a lot that individual has been through, and I know, like, it's hard because I want people to speak their truth and all of that stuff. But I hope it's clear that, like, I don't think that if you think you're an alcoholic, I don't think that there is a healthy drinking pattern afterwards. If once you've told yourself that I am an alcoholic, this is my opinion. If he's able to get it under control and like everything's fine until the day he dies, fucking awesome. Good for them. Any way that you can make it through this life without negative experience, awesome. But once you've admitted that you have an addiction problem, I think that you should stop. Like, that's just it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It isn't when he was talking about being younger and drinking to fit in and to socialize. That was me. And still, even as an adult, I would feel like I had to drink to be social because I'm so shy and nervous. I don't know what it is.
For sure.
And so it'll be interesting, when we start socializing with people again after everything, like maybe that's when I'll start having those cravings. Because right now we're so sheltered and trying to come out of my bubble and feeling like, well, people aren't going to like the real me. Well, who is the real you? Like, alcohol doesn't make you.
Yeah.
So having to realize, you know what? Alcohol doesn't make you. I can have conversations with people all day sober, Yeah. So it's just, it'll be interesting, I think, too. What I've been thinking about a lot lately is what's going to, once we're out able to socialize with people and hang out with people, who are still going to be our people. Like, I think about that a lot because there have been periods where we've quit drinking as a couple and people don't hang out with us as much or invite us to things because they have this, I don't know if they're afraid or.
Yeah. I was thinking about that because we have somebody that has been at functions that doesn't drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling like you can't help it. Like you almost don't know what to talk about.
Yeah.
You want to address the fact that they don't drink for some reason.
I know.
I don't understand
in my
why
head,
we do that.
Yeah. I think the same thing.
I did that all the fucking time.
Which we know why that person doesn't drink is because they had a problem and issues
Exactly.
happen. Very
like people
real
say,
issues.
You're either an alcoholic or pregnant is the only time that you don't drink.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I know a lot of people who just don't drink.
Yeah.
It sucks that they have to come up with some kind of excuse as to why they don't do it. But, it's such a strange thing to think that for some reason you have to address that when really it doesn't need to be spoken on at all.
Yeah. I just don't drink.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe we talk about that because there's a lot of that stuff I'm gonna cut out.
Okay.
Just so people are aware if it seems a little choppy at certain points.
Yeah.
So I wonder what if you're listening to this, somebody says, "I'm good." Like if you ask them if they want to drink, just go, "All right, cool. We got water too. go
Yeah.
to the next thing. Try to skip
But
over it.
even when we've done our podcast before, we've been like, oh, we got this, this, and this. And someone's like, I just want water. Like, you almost feel weird, like, oh.
I know.
And now we're going to be those people.
I know. So
I know. How do we work on that with other people? Like,
yeah.
don't be that person that's like, well, why don't you want to drink? Just, if someone doesn't want to drink, just.
It's not even that person, because it's everyone. Literally, I feel like.
As a society,
Yeah.
we do that. Yeah.
It's a societal norm that you have to address the fact that they don't drink, because it's up in your goddamn face everywhere. So don't, it's not that you're being that person. Just start to recognize that. So if you're listening, think about a time when you've asked someone why they're not drinking or why they won't have a shot. And then think about why that matters at all. And then just going forward, try to be conscious of that.
Yeah.
If you can. That's what I would say. So it's not that like, don't be that person.
No. Yeah. I'm not saying, because I've done it plenty
Yeah.
of times. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll have to think about that too.
Yeah.
And that's interesting, because now I wonder, like, if I'm still going to think that, like, if somebody else doesn't have a drink, am I going to be like, are they an addict too?
Oh, did they go through treatment?
Do I need to do that? Like,
but we hear people that are just like, I just don't drink.
Yeah. So that's just a thing for me to be like, even if I'm on the other end of the spectrum, I'm sure I'm still going to have those questions.
What's interesting though is like, we just assume everyone drinks, but it's so like, I don't do methamphetamines. People aren't like, really? You don't? I don't. Yeah. But for drinking, it's because it's a socialized societal norm that people.
But with cigarettes, like, if somebody asks me for a lighter and I say I don't have one, no one ever goes, really?
What? I know. That's so interesting. This is definitely something I'm going to think about a lot more. But I have been thinking a lot, like, I wonder who's going to still want to hang out with us. And then you really weed through who. Because when you were in the hospital or when you went to treatment, the people that did know, they checked in with me a lot. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have completely fallen off.
Yeah, but don't catastrophize in that way.
No,
because it doesn't necessarily mean that there's just people that don't know how to handle it.
I don't know how to talk to people
when
there's serious things going on too.
Well, and I would say, like, don't let yourself create a narrative that says we'll see who's really our friends.
No.
It's more so I hope that the people that we care about don't think that they have to walk on eggshells for this stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm going to try. And this is all shit that I'm saying. It's easy to say.
And it's going to be learning. It's going to be us both
exactly.
learning. Yep.
100%. It's something that I have to teach myself. It's something that's. I was just talking to a friend the other day that, like, I'm the first addict for a lot of people. Mm. I'm the first person that they are actually close to that's gone through treatment. So that's super weird. So talking about that whole, like, somebody was at the liquor store when I was talking to them, and they were like, I'm sorry, just so you know, I am in a liquor store right now. It's like, I'm not a priest. You don't have to confess your sins to me. It's okay.
Would you tell me if you were in the grocery store? Would you tell me if you were at...
I mean, but you can't help it because it's totally new. You don't know. You have no idea what you're supposed to do around us people. Like, I don't know how else to say it, but like...
Because we were on the opposite end when we were around one other person that didn't... Yeah.
It was so how much easier was it to just not talk to them?
Yeah.
It's not that you were saying, I think that person's shitty or lame or whatever. You just didn't know what to say.
I think it's because you felt uncomfortable. We felt uncomfortable because we were buzzed or intoxicated, and are they thinking less of me because they don't drink?
Yep,
No,
yep,
that's
yep.
not the case either. I'm not gonna think less of people.
But it's so, you're not thinking the other person is not, so the buzz thing, but like you're not thinking that you any negative connotation towards that person. It's just easier.
I know.
I've not, that applies to a bunch of shit. I have not made certain phone calls to people because I go, what if that phone call lasts a half an hour?
You're such a jerk.
You know what I mean?
No,
You
I
do
get
it
it.
too.
I do too. I know.
So it's like, it's a realization that I've had just in the last few days of
I
like,
know.
it's not that you're being shitty. You're in your brain. You go, it's just easier if I do something else. If I just don't make the phone call. I still love that person, but it's, I'm still going to love them whether I make the phone call or not. They're going to be fine. And you rationalize, and those thoughts are like in an instant.
Yeah.
You think 5,000 thoughts in a second, and it's just, what you're really saying is, it's just, right now it's just easier if I don't.
And take a nap instead.
And take a nap, and goddamn naps. If you take a nap instead. Okay, now I think we've filled quite enough time. Like I said, there's no letter this episode, but I am excited for the next episode.
Oh.
Because that letter, because we FaceTime with them, and that letter is unique to the other letters that you're going to hear. But as always, please, if you have any questions, if you have things that you want us to answer, and I encourage people to ask Kim more questions. I know my shit is like at the forefront, so it seems easier to come up with questions for that, but put yourself in those shoes if you have a spouse, and how you would tackle these certain things. See what you come up with, and feel free to email those in, or you can message them to the Facebook page, which is Duck Grey Duke on Facebook. If you want to email, duckduckgreyduke@gmail.com. If you've got my number, feel free to text, give a call. That's fine too. And if you'd like to be on the show, I would encourage more people, if you're in recovery and, or if you're like the spouse or something, try to keep it more in that realm. Not that I didn't enjoy that conversation with that individual. I love them dearly, but I want to just make my stance clear in that realm, that like abstinence is the only way that I'm going to survive for me. Otherwise, I feel like I don't have any hope in those regards.
Yeah. And then if you have questions, if you have any questions for me, but you are unsure if it's something I'd be uncomfortable answering, you can always people can just message me on Facebook too. So feel free to message me if you want to, or you can, any of the other platforms, Chris will ask me if it's something I'll talk about, which I'm pretty open to talk about anything. I can't talk specifics about my job and stuff like that. So, HIPAA and all that, but in relation to my relationship with Chris, our children and all that, I know people want me to talk more about the kids, how they were affected. So hopefully next episode I know the last one I was kind of all over the place, and I might have to just, because when the camera gets on me, I get a little weird. Yeah. So I might have to write things down and just,
it's nice being able to look at you. It seems easier to talk.
I know.
Like
I don't like looking at the camera. I know. But it's nice when we're not together, but it is kind of nice having you once in a while. Yeah. But I think next episode I'll talk more about how it affected the kids. I have some things I have to talk with Chris about before, just in case he does want me to talk about specific stuff. Yeah.
You won't hear certain things from me in terms of my use because, I'm not out of the woods yet. So there's just some questions that I won't answer as well. Just depends. And I don't want to go any deeper than that. But there's some stuff that, even when people are in recovery, like even though we're doing better and you start to see the rainbow, like the consequences of your actions can still come back to haunt you and bite you in the ass. So I gotta be mindful of that when we're talking on here.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. Well, thank you guys for listening, and subscribe to YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts. We're on all kinds of platforms that I keep finding out every week. I feel like some new like podcast hosting thing is taking our stuff on. So, thank you. And with that, we will pass.